Express Series, English for Presentations by Marion Grussendorf. Published and copyright Oxford University Press, 2007. Unit 1, Exercise 1. Presentation 1.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank you all for being here today. I'm glad that so many of you could come, especially since I know that this time of the year is probably the busiest for you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Don Taylor. I'm the head of logistics here at Air Spares. Logistics is a center of competency dedicated to providing you with the spare parts you need, precisely when you need them. I'm here today to present our new semi-automatic shelving system. My talk is particularly relevant to those of you who place orders for the different parts we supply.
Presentation 2.
Okay, shall we get started? Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Charlotte Best from IT. I'm a team leader. I'm happy that so many of you could make it today at such short notice. I know that you're all extremely busy at the moment, so I'd like to start with my presentation right away. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is project documentation. We're going to look closely at drafting, storing, archiving, as well as accessing documents in our new SAP system. We'll also examine the much improved handling of all project documentation as well as user rights. This is extremely important for all of us who are directly involved in international project management, right? You don't need me to spell it out. If it isn't documented, it doesn't exist.
Presentation 3.
Good afternoon. I'm aware that you all have very tight schedules, so I appreciate you taking the time to come here today. As you probably know, my name is Susan Webster. I'm the new Human Resources Manager here at Western Limited. What I'd like to present to you today is my department's new concept for improving our in-company training and qualification programs. This is based on feedback from your departments. Today's topic will be very important for you as department heads, since I'll need your help to evaluate and select candidates for training.
Unit 1, Exercise 9.
Hello everyone. First of all, let me thank you for coming here today. I'm aware that you're all busy preparing for the annual meeting this week, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gordon Selfridge. Let me just write that down for you. Okay. I'm the project manager in charge of the Back Tower building project in Dubai. This morning, I'd like to update you on the current status of work at the construction site. The information I give you today should help you with planning your next steps. I've divided my presentation into 3 parts. I'll start off by showing you some photos of the building site and discussing the progress we've made since January. Then I'll move on to the problems we're facing with our local suppliers. I'll end with some ideas for reducing labour costs that we've been looking into. My talk should take about 30 minutes. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time with questions. Oh, and don't worry about taking notes. I'll be handing out copies of the PowerPoint slides.
Unit 1, Exercise 12. 1. You know, I was sitting in the waiting room at the dentist's the other day when I came across something very interesting in one of the magazines that was lying there. It said that chocolate is really a vegetable because we get it from cocoa and sugar, which come from cocoa beans and sugar cane, both plants, i.e. vegetables, right? Chocolate, a health food? You know, it's all about the way things are presented and how we look at them. Image building, ladies and gentlemen. That is our business, and we're here today to take you through some of the more 2.
Imagine you worked in a small to medium-sized company and were responsible for making people in your company aware of health and safety issues. How would you go about it? Would you have a meeting? Send everyone an email? Take a few moments to think about it.
3.
Did you know that the number of possible ways of playing the first 4 moves per side in a game of chess is 318,979,564,000? Let me just write that number on the board. 318,979,000 and 564,000. Now, what does that have to do with our topic today, which, as you know, is project management? Well, let me tell you.
4.
So, let me start by asking you a question. Why should we introduce a double quality check here at Auto Spares and Parts, one at goods in and another at goods out? After all, our products come from certified suppliers, and we have an excellent track record for providing quick and competent service. So, why bother? Well, I'm here today to tell you why. For those of you who don't know me, my name is...
Unit 2, Exercise 1. 1.
As you know, I've been asked to talk to you about the handbooks for our all-in-one systems for smaller businesses. Peter Collins from Customer Care has told me that they have been getting a lot of phone calls and emails from users who say that the setup instructions are extremely complicated and don't match the sketches. What I'd like to do today is to make some suggestions on how we can make our handbooks more user-friendly.
2.
I'd like to talk to you today about how globalization has changed the face of the insurance industry. The purpose of my talk is to provide you with information on the major developments in the insurance market in the last few months. I'd like to start with...
3.
Okay, let's get started. We're here to discuss the introduction of short-time work in our company. As you know, our order books are not the fullest at the moment, so we have to find ways to get through this crisis and at the same time keep jobs. What I want to do this morning is to show you how we could reorganize our working hours. Among other things, I'll be talking about...
4.
As you can see from your handouts, we'll be looking at some new European transport regulations today. The objective is to bring you up to date with the latest changes, which will be introduced on January the 1st. These changes will mainly affect transport companies in the EU, but they will also...
Unit 2, Exercise 4.
Okay, so that's the background and the reason we developed the program. Any questions? Okay, so let's move on to the next point and take a closer look at the Traffic Support Centre itself. As I said earlier, the TSC was set up in 2001 to help traffic flow more smoothly and basically to make the lives of motorists easier. In this part of my presentation, I'd like to tell you about the centre's activities, how we work exactly, and how motorists benefit from our services. So, let me give you a brief overview of the TSC's activities. Our main activities are to collect, analyse and communicate traffic information. After collecting traffic data from a number of different sources, we analyse them and then we inform the media, the police or other authorities, and, last but not least, the motorists. This now leads us to my next point. How does the TSC collect data? Traffic monitoring equipment has been installed across the main traffic routes, which helps us gather real-time information on traffic speed and traffic flow. Additionally, we use variable traffic sensors and cameras. We also work together with other partners and authorities, for example, the police, traffic officers, and the media. Let me show you a few examples of how this works. So much for collecting data. Let's now turn to the next issue. How do we communicate information to motorists? We do this in a number of ways. By using electronic road signs, the internet and radio, and state-of-the-art telephone technology. Let me now come back to what I said earlier. The TSC wants to make the lives of motorists easier. So, in what ways does the motorist benefit? Well, first, through real-time information about the traffic situation. Second, through better advice about alternative routes. Third, through safer roads and less driver stress.
Unit 2, Exercise 9.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, as you probably know, we are currently having difficulties with our new men's cosmetics line. These problems lie chiefly with our main bottle supplier, but we are also having trouble with distribution. I'd like to quickly identify the problems and then make some suggestions on how we can deal with the consequences. So, let's start with our bottle supplier then. We've been having serious difficulties with GSG, which is our main plastic bottle supplier, regarding both quantity and quality. We don't understand why, but they don't seem to be able to supply the quantities we order from them. In addition, the quality of the material is so poor that we've had to return about 40% of the bottles. We've been trying to cope with these problems, the delays, the poor quality, all along, but so far we've not been able to find ways to prevent them from happening again. It's clear we can no longer continue to accept these conditions. Moreover, we're now getting ready for the Christmas season. If we don't solve our supply problems within the next 2 weeks, we'll run into serious trouble with respect to our Christmas business. Let's move on to distribution. Here, the problem lies with the van.
Unit 3, Exercise 1. 1.
Take a look at these figures. They clearly highlight how a combination of two significant external factors affected our business in the first 2 quarters of this year. One important factor is the oil price. The second, the development of the euro against the dollar. In 2002, we exported nearly 2/3 of our products to the US and Canada. Since then, oil has become much more expensive, and so has the euro. Let me show you what this means for our export business. I'll just write some figures on the board, and then we will go on to discuss the next point.
2.
Okay, let's now have a look at our new magnetic ski rack, Matterhorn, which was launched in August. This system is more compact than the old one and also easier to handle. Another advantage is that it can also be used for snowboards. We hope to sell at least 5,000 of these systems within the next 2 months. On the next slide, you will see an illustration of the Matterhorn X15.
3.
As I explained earlier, we've worked very hard to make our products more attractive for the customer. These are the sales figures for Europe for the first 3 quarters of this year. As you can see here, we've had a very successful year. We've sold about 21,000 fully automatic espresso machines and nearly 7,500 semi-automatic machines so far. To highlight our success even further, let's go back to the 2003 figures on the previous page. Let me just flip back to it. Ah, yes, here it is.
Unit 3, Exercise 4. 1.
251.
2.
7,489.
3.
3.8 billion.
4,
49 million euro.
5,
$19.62.
6,
2/3.
7,
175 square meters.
8,
1,240,000.
9,
7.2.
Unit 3, Exercise 5. 1,
Let's look at the figures in this table more closely. As you can see, in the first row, we sold 18,250 cars in Germany in the first quarter, while in the same period we sold roughly 32,000 in the EU. Our non-EU market was still relatively small, with sales of about 8,000 cars. Now, if you look at the second quarter, you will see a dramatic change. Whereas our German business didn't increase much, sales in the other two areas developed very well. In the EU, 47,500 cars were sold, and in the non-EU countries, sales went up to 17,300, which I'm sure you will agree is an extremely good result.
2,
If you look at the next slide, you will see the layout of our new open plan office in Hamburg. As you can see from the plan, it's 24.8 meters long and about 16 meters wide for a total of just over 400 square meters. Our office will be on the 12th floor of the building, which has a total of 16 floors. We'll be moving to our new premises on the 15th of February, if everything goes according to plan.
3,
You can see the 5 most expensive cities for business travellers in this table. Venice leads the table with an average rate of €387. In Rome, the business traveller has to pay €239, and in Paris, a room costs €226. In New York City, the average room rate is €225, and in Milan, it's €215 per night.
Unit 3, Exercise 8. 1,
So, we've seen that our new line of refrigerators is environmentally friendly. Let's now turn to the next point, which is their unique design. I'd like to draw your attention to 3 new design features. First, the refrigerators are more colorful. Apple started the trend of colorful computers in the office. We think that consumers want more color in their kitchens too, and our refrigerators provide that. What's really interesting here is that customers can change the color panels. There are 5 colors to choose from, to match their home, their mood, the seasons, whatever. The second unique design feature is the circular shelving system. Each shelf can be rotated so that all items of food are easy to reach and nothing gets lost in the back of the fridge again. And finally, the new refrigerator has a compact design. This means that it takes up less floor space while holding as much as a conventional refrigerator.
2,
About 1,000 businesses in the UK were asked if Britain should introduce the euro. What are the results of this survey? Well, I think you'll agree that the results are quite interesting. As you can see from this table, 49% said they wanted to wait and see. Only 13% said Britain should never join the Eurozone. The good news is that nearly 35% said we should go in immediately. So, where do we go from here?
Unit 3, Exercise 11. I'd now like to draw your attention to the regions where poverty has been reduced. If you look at the bar chart on the left, you will see that the proportion of the global population living on less than $1 a day has dropped. The figures also show that in South Asia, the proportion of extremely poor people has been reduced from 41 to 31%. It is quite remarkable how much progress has been made by China. On the other hand, poverty has increased in many parts of Africa, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. How can we explain this uneven development? To answer this question, we'll have a look at the latest study from the World Bank. First, let's talk about the figures that indicate global progress. Unit 4, Exercise 1. Presentation 1.
The next chart shows the breakdown by age in our company. You can see that the biggest segment, almost 70%, indicates the percentage of employees in the age group 35 to 50. About 19% of our staff are between 51 and 60 years of age, and 2% are above 60. The final pie is the most interesting for our discussion today. It shows the percentage of employees under 35 years of age, which I think you'll be surprised to hear, is currently only 9% of our total staff.
Presentation 2.
Let's now have a look at the sales figures over the past 5 years. First, let me quickly explain the graph. You can see that different colours have been used to indicate each of our main sales areas. The key in the bottom left-hand corner shows you which colour represents which area. The red line, for example, gives us the sales figures for Belgium, the green line is for Germany, and so on. OK, so I'd like to first draw your attention to the sales figures for France. That's the blue line here.
Presentation 3.
Now, I'd like you to take a look at this next slide, which shows how the cost of living developed in Europe between 2003 and 2007. According to the European Economic Institute, living expenses rose by between 1.1 and 2% each year. If you look at the bar chart on the left, you'll see that the highest increase was in 2005, with a rise of 2%.
Unit 4, Exercise 5. Presentation 1.
First, I'd like you to look at this graph, which shows the ups and downs in our passenger volume over the past 9 months. As you can see here, passenger numbers fluctuated between 2.1 and 2.3 million in the first 4 months. They even rose moderately in May, reaching just over 2.5 million at the end of the month. In June, you'll notice a sharp fall in passenger numbers as a direct consequence of HLX's entry into the market. Now, as you all know, HLX is a no-frills airline with direct flights to almost all major Southeast Asian cities. Passenger traffic slumped to about 1.5 million, a decline of almost 40%. In early July, we introduced a new, more aggressive pricing system to boost sales. As a result, ticket sales started picking up in July. By the end of September, passenger numbers had reached just over 2 million.
Presentation 2.
On the next graph, you'll see the sales figures for Systex in the past 5 years. Let me now highlight the most important facts about our hay fever medication. Despite an intensive advertising campaign, we had a slow start in Europe in 2003, selling 500,000 units in the first 12 months. The figure rose by about 50,000 in the following year. In 2005, however, sales rocketed to 1 million following the problems at TC Pharma, our main competitor in the anti-allergy sector. 2006 saw an even further increase in sales to 1.3 million due to the extremely warm and long summer. As expected, sales went down again in 2007 and stood at just over 1 million at the end of the year.
Unit 4, Exercise 11.
The next graph shows the market share of Lifestyle Today for the first 6 months after it was launched in April 2005. As you can see, we started off with a rather low market share of about 7%. Audience ratings improved significantly, climbing to 10% in May. In June, however, the programme's market share plunged to 6%. This drastic decline has a simple cause. we lost a large part of our audience to live transmissions of two major sporting events, Wimbledon and the Confederations Cup. Fortunately, this was only a temporary setback. Over the next 3 months, the figures continued to rise steadily and reached record levels each month, 11% in July, 12% in August, and 14% in September.
Unit 5, Exercise 1. Well, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Before I stop, let me go through my main points again. You gave us the brief to find out A, whether we can reduce our air travel costs by using budget airlines, and B, if so, how we should proceed. So, to sum up, first question, is it really viable to use these no-frills airlines? Clear answer there. In some cases, we can save as much as 60% compared to regular flights. The next question, how to proceed? In other words, who would be able to handle the online bookings most efficiently? I'll just run through the 3 different options we investigated again. Option 1, we take on a part-time employee for this job. Option 2, staff book their own flights. Option 3, we outsource this function. So, what is the best solution for us? From a financial point of view, our results are absolutely clear. Option 1. A part-timer would be the best, the cheapest and least time-consuming solution. We therefore recommend that we recruit a part-time employee who could handle all our online bookings. The ideal candidate should either have some internet experience or have previously worked for a travel agent. We'd suggest a limited contract to begin with. So now it's up to you to decide where to go from here. I'm sure you'll make the right choice. Now I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Unit 5, Exercise 6. 1.
Let me go back to the story I told at the start of my talk. Remember, the sales meeting in Vienna with the disappointed Japanese businessman? 3 days later, we got an email saying they were going with us after all. So, this just shows you that knowing your entire product range is the key to success.
2.
So, to conclude, I'm convinced that ICM would be an excellent method to make better use of the knowledge we have, and it would strengthen our market position. So, do we really want to miss this opportunity to get ahead of our competitors?
3.
Finally, let me highlight the key question once again. Do we need a digital telephone system or can we upgrade the existing one? As I've shown in my brief presentation today, we must invest in the new system. An upgrade is just not feasible. I'd just like to finish with something former US President Bill Clinton once said. You can put wings on a pig, but you don't make it an eagle.
4. Before I end my presentation today, I'd like to briefly recap the main reasons for doing business with us. We use state-of-the-art technology. We provide round-the-clock professional customer care. And, most important, we customize our products and services to give you what you need when you need it. So the next step is yours. Set up an appointment with our project manager and our SAP consultant, and we can work out the best practice solutions that suit your business. Unit 5, Exercise 11.
Finally, let me come back to the key points of my talk. I told you that in the first quarter, more than half, or 52% of our revenues, came from overseas. This is in line with the targets we set out in 2004 when we decided we wanted to continue to rely on overseas markets, especially China, to keep growing. In the past 3 months, we've added more new customers in China than in any other country. Now, what are our targets for the next few months? The first major step will be the introduction of our PayPal payment service in China. And then we will focus on finding customers in existing markets, such as the US and Germany, who haven't tried buying from our website yet.
Unit 6, Exercise 1. 1.
And now I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes?
You were talking about software problems. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I mentioned earlier that the new software is being tested at the moment. In the trial runs, we've had more than 150 bugs so far, and at the moment, we're not sure how long it'll take us to solve all these problems. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. 2.
Are there any more questions? Mr. Lee?
Would you mind telling us whether the new software will help to improve our company's image?
I'm afraid I don't quite understand your question. Could you be a bit more specific?
Yes, I'd like to know whether we will also use the new software to make our company more attractive for the customer. I'm talking about a new website, interactive applications, and so on.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, as I said earlier...
3. I have another question. It's about the piloting stage. Which division will start piloting the software first?
If you don't mind, I'd prefer not to discuss that today. Actually, there will be a meeting next week where that will be decided.
4.
Mr. Martinez, you have a question?
Yes, you spoke about special training courses earlier. Could you tell us how they will be organised?
Sorry, I'm afraid that's not my field, but I'm sure Linda Cole from the training department could answer that question. I'll ask her to get in touch with you on that. Well, if there are no more questions, all that remains for me to do is to wish you a nice evening.
Unit 6, Exercise 4.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Could you give us some background information on Track Limited?
Certainly. They are one of the leading manufacturers of outdoor equipment in the UK, with more than 35 factories worldwide.
Would you mind telling us why you've chosen them as partners?
No, not at all. The answer's quite simple. We were very impressed with the quality of their products, and their prices are very attractive.
May I ask a question?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
I'd be interested to know what their terms of payment are.
I'm afraid I can't answer that question. I suggest you speak to Sylvia Baker. She would be the right person to ask.
Excuse me, you mentioned a London office. Does that mean we do business through them?
That's right. We need to discuss the details, though.
Unit 6, Exercise 7. 1.
So, delivery of the units has been set for the 15th of May. That gives us 3 months to handle the production and packaging. I'd like to turn now to the...
Excuse me, do you really think that's realistic? I mean, 3 months. What about our staff problems?
If I have understood you correctly, Louise, your question is how we can meet the delivery date, as we are slightly understaffed in production at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, let me answer your question right away. First of all...
2.
And talking of mergers, don't forget the successful German hair care company Weller, which was taken over by Procter & Gamble only a few years ago. What we need to discuss is whether it's the right moment for us to consider a merger with Carter Financial Services.
Could you tell us what their turnover was last year?
Sorry, if you don't mind, I'd like to answer your question a bit later, when we discuss the financial side of this merger. OK, I was just moving on to the timing of the merger, and I really...
3.
And this brings me to the most important topic of today's session. Due to our new European harmonisation strategy, our complete sales, after-sales and marketing departments will be relocated to Aberdeen by July next year. Now, I know this may come as a shock to most of you, but I can guarantee that all the staff affected will be fully supported every step of the way.
Excuse me, but may I ask how you propose to support those people who are tied to this location? For example, those of us who care for elderly parents or whose children are in a special needs school, for example.
Yes, That's a very valid question. Let me just repeat it so everybody can hear. You're concerned about staff members who will find it difficult to move away from Bristol due to family commitments. Yes, well, of course, we will not force anyone to move, and our Works Council is working very closely with HR to find the best solutions for everyone. If you look on our intranet...
4.
The main advantages of smart credit cards are...
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but could you explain what smart means in this context?
Yes, sure. It means that the big credit card companies like Visa and MasterCard use special microchips instead of the usual magnetic strips on their cards. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, let's go back to the main advantages of smart credit cards.